Okay, big news for me. I was selected as a recipient of the NDSEG Fellowship, which is a PhD fellowship. It comes with funding and research opportunities, or I should say networking opportunities for your research through conferences. It comes with a travel stipend, and it will prevent me from being a teaching assistant while I'm trying to also do research during my PhD program. So it's a really big deal. Super excited about it. And if you saw my recent vlog, then you might already know kind of how I'm feeling about it. A little nervous, honestly, that the program may disappear due to budget cuts, but I'm really hoping that it doesn't because it's a big step forward in my career. So someone commented on that video wondering about some tips for the NDSEG application, and I thought that was a great idea given the spirit of this channel, which is to share information about PhD programs and research and what it all looks like. So I'm putting together a video today that is going to show you a little bit of my application for NDSEG, give you some information about the fellowship program, and hopefully give you a little bit of insight into what it looks like to submit an application and then to be selected. Okay, if you just Google NDSEG, you get this website, which says Building the Next Generation of STEM Leaders. It's got the logo up here in the corner, and it's got this banner going across, National Defense Science and Engineering Graduate Fellowship Program, a welcome message, department agencies, which can be useful if you're unfamiliar with those agencies. I would actually take a look at who these agencies are so you can get to know them, and that'll be important later in your application. The interesting thing is that this actually isn't the website that I put the application in, and that confused me at first, and I was worried that I'd been like redirected to a different website. So there's this About NDSEG link up here, and then there's a link that says Apply link, and when you click that, it's going to take you to this page. This tells you about the 2024 application cycle. I applied for the 2025 application cycle. So this website with all the purple is actually a little bit out of date. They have not updated these dates yet, and you'll see here that there's actually a different website where you go to submit your actual application. So if you click on this, it's going to bring up this NDSEG link by Systems Plus. This is the program administrator. I'm not actually sure exactly who Systems Plus is, and this is why I was saying at first I was a little bit uncertain, and I thought maybe I had been linked to the wrong site, but I had some other members of the lab who had applied before, and so they could talk about this website a little better. So Systems Plus, I believe, is like a contractor for the government. So they are the ones administering, managing, and working on this NDSEG program, and they'll be where you do all your application stuff. And then if you are selected, you'll also go through the process of verifying your citizenship and doing all of that through this program, because it is a fellowship for US citizens only. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you're an international student in the US, you're not eligible to apply, but they do have this nice eligibility thing right here where you can figure out if you are eligible just through their check eligibility feature. So anyways, you can check your eligibility here. Let's go back, and then you'll see that the 2025 application review is ongoing right now. Applicants can track their progress by logging in, and the next application cycle opens August 1st. So if you are eligible for this fellowship, I recommend that you start the application right when it opens, because you're going to need to get transcripts, you're going to need to get recommendation letters, and all of that stuff tends to take time. You don't want to be doing that on a really tight deadline when the fellowship application is due. So just go ahead and get that started exactly when the application cycle opens on August 1st. It'll help you sleep better at night, I promise. So this is the how to apply page, and you'll see this apply here. There's also some really helpful FAQs that you can look at. Let's just go to the apply. I already have an account, so I'm just gonna log in. Okay, so right now what you're looking at is the post-award dashboard. So this is because I was selected as a fellowship recipient, and I've completed all the things that were required after acceptance to finish up with paperwork and stuff like that. So I did mentioned earlier that you verify your citizenship as part of this award. So that's part of this. Advisor information, bank account information, third-party billing information for your university, and the fellowship acceptance form, because some people do receive multiple fellowship offers and usually you have to pick one of them. So if you were not going to go through with NDSEG because you got NSF fellowship instead, you would decline this fellowship and accept the NSF fellowship. So this is what the post-award dashboard looks like. But when you are still applying, you're going to get this application dashboard. Okay, now you'll remember I said that the dates were a little bit off. So this says deadline is on November 3rd, 2023. The deadline for me was November 3rd, 2024. Yeah, time is in a weird state of things right now. It's easy to forget. Okay, so at any given point, you're gonna see this status on your applicant dashboard. So when you're first working on the application, it says like in progress, maybe something along those lines. Then once you've submitted it, it'll say submitted. Then it goes to, I think it said under evaluation. I forgot to keep track, but it was either under review or under evaluation. And then once they made decisions, it changed to selected. And I saw on Grad Cafe, which is a like graduate student website, that other people, it would say not selected, or some people were still under evaluation or under review when I already saw selected on mine. So it can depend a little bit on the agency, I believe. Not everyone gets the exact same date status change in their portal. So you can check your status at any time on this application dashboard. Mine obviously says post-award complete because I already was selected and then went through the process of doing all the documentation afterwards. And so that is my new status here. But it said under evaluation first and then changed to selected. Okay, so the reason I said you should start right when the window opens is that you need a lot of information and some of these take a long time to complete. So application information and academic record, that's going to be entering in your university information, dates, your doctoral program, student ID, what you plan to study. That's what's there. There's another section, other info. This is relevant work experience and jobs that you've had. Then you've got a resume and CV section. You need to upload an original unredacted resume and then a redacted resume. I love the redacted resume idea. So let me just show you what mine looked like. This is my redacted resume. So this is a great way to reduce bias in the process because you're not allowed to list your university. You're not allowed to list the name of the conferences that you've had papers or publications in. You have to remove any reference to company that you've worked for, school that you went to, and conferences that you were accepted to. And I think the goal of this is really to help evaluate candidates with less bias, because if you're stacking somebody from, let's say, like, you know, CU Boulder, where I go now, with somebody from MIT, you might be making a snap judgment in your mind that someone who goes to MIT is better inherently, and you might not be looking at their actual merit as a candidate. So take your time on this redacted resume, make sure that it meets the criteria. There's a whole guideline in NDSEG on how to create the redacted resume and a template for it. But use this as your opportunity to get that unbiased review from somebody. You don't have to worry about your school. You don't have to worry about what companies you worked at. Such a great part of this application. I spent a while making sure that this redacted resume really reflected all of the things that I've done, all the things that I've worked towards, rather than just trying to rely on the name of the schools I went to or the prestige of the program or something like that. So you'll need to spend a lot of time doing this, and you have to do a regular non-redacted resume. So that's why I keep saying start early, because this stuff, it does take a while. Okay, then you have a personal essay. So the personal essay is also a redacted version. So you're going to need to remove any references to the school you went to. If you saw my video on taking a non-traditional path to my PhD program, then you'll know that getting into a good school was a huge part of my identity or my feelings of success, and I had to take that out for the personal statements. You can't talk about the exact school you went to. So everything has to be in kind of anonymous almost terms. It's like instead of saying I went to Georgia Tech, I had to say my 4-year university. So think about things like that. They do take a while, and you are limited to 500 words for these, or at least you were for my application cycle. So you'll have an essay here about your short and long-term professional goals and your foundation in those goals and how the fellowship will fit those goals. Think of it like a behavioral interview, basically just answering behavioral interview questions, really. Again, this has to be redacted. And then you have a personal story or personal statement to describe your fellowship journey. Now, for me, I know that a lot of students getting accepted to PhD programs and getting fellowships have extremely high grades. I don't have as high of grades as those students. And this personal story was a chance for me to describe why that is the case. And it's the case because I was often working in addition to going to school and had a really difficult schedule to keep up with. So I could use this personal story as a way to explain why maybe I don't have the exact same grades as somebody else in the program, but I got a chance to demonstrate that it took, time management and determination and focus and grit to get the grades that I did get and to get the achievements that I got in my career. These personal stories and the goals, these are the two things that I had lab mates of mine workshop with me. So I wrote an initial version that was just like a brain dump, basically. And then I scheduled a meeting with them, and we went to like a closed session in like a small meeting room, and we just talked about my personal story and my goals, and they helped me reshape them from being this like long running stream of consciousness into a really concise and succinct essay. And I can't understate enough how much help that was, and I can't thank them enough for all the help on these two items. So my number one tip there is get trusted friends, lab mates, colleagues, a PI to review your essays. Make sure that they are a coherent story. Make sure that they represent you well. Other people can give you a really unbiased feedback, and you need that to make these good. I promise you, you need that. Don't go it alone. It was so helpful to have all their feedback. I think that's my number one tip, and that's going to come into play for the next part, which is the research statement. So this proposal is your research proposal. And basically, when you're doing the research proposal, you are looking through the supporting agencies. If you remember, I mentioned that on the first page that we looked at. You are looking through those supporting agencies, and they have this very long PDF of different technological goals that they're trying to achieve. Now, if you want this fellowship, you need to figure out where your research aligns best in that PDF with the different technological goals that the different agencies have. And you're going to have to select one of those. So again, you have to start this process early so that you know exactly which agency you want to be applying to, and so that you can write a research proposal that encompasses everything that you're working on and packages it nicely for the technological goal that this agency is trying to achieve. So that's what you are going to be doing in this section. Let me show you what my research proposal ended up looking like. It's a very plain PDF document. I don't waste a lot of space with letterhead and all of that stuff. I just get right to the point. I have an introduction and background section, which just defines a lot of the background motivation for what I'm trying to do as a researcher. And again, remember, this was written in such a way that it aligns really well. It aligns my research really well with the organization that is looking for this type of work. So that's a key. Like, take your research ideas and talk with your PI and make sure that you have aligned your research goals with something that's ongoing, because that's really what they're looking for, is advancement in one particular aspect. So I have this introduction and background section. I did this all in Overleaf. Overleaf is great. I find it really helpful. It's just LaTeX on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side is my PDF document that gets generated. You can also use LaTeX in VS Code. So if you prefer more of an IDE experience, then you can just use your regular VS Code. Super easy. I do that sometimes for other things like homework assignments, but I love Overleaf because we now as PhD students have premium versions of this, which means I can get other people to write comments on my document in Overleaf. I can resolve them very easily. It's easy to track changes and stuff like that. So I use Overleaf for that because it's not as easy to do it through VS Code and be like pushing to a Git repo for people's feedback. So that's why I use Overleaf for this. You can see that the intro and background is full of cited literature that's relevant. Really important to make sure that you are demonstrating some research skills already. So, you know, I'm already showing that I can, or at least what I was trying to do is, you know, show that I can pull together relevant literature and put that into a coherent background and motivation for my research ideas. And so that's what I did in this section. And then I have a research methodology section, which is basically taking that motivation and then showing what I'm going to do specifically as possible to demonstrate some type of research progress. And, you know, if you've already done a little bit of that stuff, it's great to put that in here. You know, building on a existing system, I will be doing X, Y, Z. Like now it's a tangible thing. So that's, I think, probably helpful for my application, is like some of this stuff I've started working on already, and I wasn't shy about, you know, peppering that in places in my methodology section just to show that, hey, I've already gotten started on this work. I'm ready to hit the ground running. Huge opportunity there in your research methodology section for that. So wrapping all that up, and then a very brief conclusion at the end. And my conclusion is basically, you know, the fellowship is going to provide support for me to advance this area of research. My work directly supports such and such lab's ongoing efforts through whatever as outlined in, and then I have the exact technological focus area that I am applying for, basically, for this fellowship. So like I said, don't underestimate the importance of aligning your research to the appropriate technological area, because that's a big component of this. And then just like a quick closing sentence. So I tried to keep it really to the point. You don't want to like blabber on. You want to be pretty focused, I think, I mean, at least that's what I tried to do, and it worked out for me. So hopefully it will work out for you too. Okay, so that's the fellowship research statement. Okay, then you're gonna need your transcripts. If you saw my video about the kind of non-traditional path, then you know I had a lot of transcripts to get, and those take time, and they also cost money. So every transcript was like $10 I had to spend. So you also just wanna, you know, have some budgeting going on to make sure that you have like $30 or $40 for transcripts, depending on how many schools you've been to, because each one cost me like $10 or $11, I think, even when they were delivered electronically, which made me very annoyed. But besides the point, you're going to need your transcripts, all transcripts. Upload those here. There's some demographic information. Then you've got your references. So you've got 3 opportunities for references here. I had my 2 PIs be my references because I'm already working with them. So that was really helpful. If you think your application would be stronger by having a 3rd reference, definitely do it. I did not have a 3rd reference, and I made that decision because the 2 PIs that I'm working with, I thought would be really strong references for me, and I didn't think a 3rd one would be necessary, but you may want to have that 3rd reference. So remember, it'll take time for them to complete that, and you want to give them as much heads up as possible. Yeah, so once all that is done, you will end up submitting your application. I've already submitted mine, so you won't see that here. But again, let me just take you back to the application dashboard. So this is what you'll see when you're logging in. And then this is the actual application that you'll get started on. This is the homepage here. You'll see right here, they've got the new deadlines out. So it's gonna open August 1st. It's gonna be open through November 1st. Start as early as possible. And I would say start with some of the writing components. The research statement is key, so you really want to be talking with your PIs about that research statement and making sure that it's compelling, demonstrating research that you've already worked on, if that is a possibility for you. Definitely spend time on that. All right, well, that was everything that I wanted to cover from the NDSEG application. If I have missed something and you still have questions about it, or you just kind of want to ask a question and get some answers from me eventually, please post them in the comments. I will definitely get around to them. It takes me a little while sometimes, but I do block out sections of my calendar just to go through comments and try to answer any questions that have kind of been, left unanswered. So please do that. I hope this was helpful, and most of all, take care of yourselves right now, and good luck with your fellowship applications.